It has come to my attention that there are two types of people out there, those that believe that the Balrog had wings and those that believe that it didn't. Now, as following the text, or what was written in it, is part of the zeitgeist, we're going to be flying deep into this mountain to get to the root of it. And those are metaphors, by the way. Balrogs were Maiar spirits akin to Gandalf or Saruman, who long ago were corrupted by Morgoth and subsequently lost the power to change their appearance, or raiment, which is the fancy word for it. Now, the most reliable canon numbers them at around 7 in total that have ever existed. And after Morgoth's defeat, it is probable that the only one to exist into the Third Age was Durin's Bane in Moria. Let's begin with the description of the Balrog having wings. Suddenly it drew itself up to a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall. This seems fairly straightforward, does it not? The Balrog stretches their back and the wings are spread. There is no further exploration required. The end. And yet there is more, or rather there was before. See, immediately before, the Balrog was described like so. His enemy halted again, facing him, and the shadow about it reached out like two vast wings. Alright, well here, the Balrog is being described as having a shadow about it, which is then appearing like two vast wings. Try not to be smug here, mate. This is an example of a simile. This is imagery that describes something or someone like something completely else. The shadow looks like a great pair of wings, but it isn't. Tolkien is trying to picture the scene of just how great and dark this creature is. Well, that may be all well and good, Mr. Gone with Gandalf, but isn't that just contradicted when Johnny says that the wings were spread wall to wall? I'd say no. This is a metaphor. Try not to be a dick. Well, it's like trying to call something a special military operation to provoke a thought or image, but we all still know what the subject actually is. Was that all right? In this case, the shadow is still like the wings, but it has now gone beyond being described as vast to now spanning the entire width of the greatest dwarf delving. It is a dramatic effect to make you think that the shadow about the wings has truly become like wings, and it wouldn't be as powerful as the simile used twice over. If you aren't convinced, then why were the wings not mentioned more prominently? Because, well, what do I mean by that? The Balrog is nearly always described as shadow and flame. What it was could not be seen. It was like a great shadow, in the middle of which was a dark form, of man shape maybe, yet greater, and a power and terror seemed to be in it and go before it. It came to the edge of the fire, and the light faded as if a cloud had bent over it. The flames roared up to greet it, and wreathed about it, and a black smoke swirled in the air. The dark figure, streaming with fire, raced towards them. Boromir blew his horn, and for a moment the orcs quailed and the fiery shadow halted. Then the echoes died as suddenly as a flame blown out by a dark wind. I could keep going here, and I shall. With a bound, the Balrog leaped full upon the bridge. This sounds like the use of their legs again, and no mention of the flutter of wings, no flapping at all. With a terrible cry, the Balrog fell forward, and its shadow plunged down and vanished. The shadow is the cloak of the Balrog and is under his command. It follows him down into the pit without ever metamorphing into wings to fly up. Ironically, though, even as Aragorn and Boromir came flying back, the rest of the bridge cracked and fell. So perhaps only those without wings can fly, or perhaps because Gandalf told them to. Now though, because in the Silmarillion, the Balrogs were described a little more. See, the Balrogs pretty much flew to the aid of Morgoth against Ungoliant. And now swiftly they arose, and passing over Hithlum they came to Lammoth as a tempest of fire. But arising is like getting out of a chair, or getting out of a mountain hold, rather than flying up. Now, Fingolfin would later fly over Anfauglith, like wind, similarly. He passed over Dor Nufauglith like a wind amid the dust. But he didn't pass over it in the air, but he probably did go quicker than any Balrog. But winged speed in general is such a metaphor for the magnitude of great speed. Like Aragorn was even given the name of Wingfoot by Éomer, and he was running on his tootsies alongside a dwarf. But I don't think this certain passage would actually reference any kind of wings for the Balrog. However, sticking with the Silmarillion, once again, Morgoth released the winged dragons in a battle of the War of Wrath. Why am I talking about this? Well, Balrogs were, of course, before dragons. The Balrogs were destroyed, save some few that fled and hid themselves in caverns inaccessible at the roots of the earth. But dragons he loosed upon his foes for the last desperate assault that he had prepared, and out of the pits of Angband there issued the winged dragons that had not before been seen. You can then assume that no previous dragons that had come forth at the Nirnaeth Arnodiad nor Fall of Gondolin, that they'd been able to fly, since they were not seen before. Winged dragons had not been seen before. And we should also notice that this is the first time that Tolkien has mentioned any battle in the air, which would be against the birds and Eärendil. And that is the first time that a unit is specifically and explicitly said to make use of physical wings. There was battle in the air all the day and through the dark night of doubt. Well, apart from the eagles previously. But it is important to look at the context of this once again, because right before in the previous paragraph, Tolkien spoke of the fleeing Balrogs. There was no hint of flight to a high place where you might actually fly, like eagles going to their nest. No, these boys ran on their feet into caverns beneath mountains. These kind of things, they don't quite link up. If you could fly, then would you not maybe go somewhere higher up, and would you not actually do so because it would be faster? My final point is a harkening back to the imagery, because that is ultimately the thing that people are probably most likely to differ upon. And in the second hall of Old Moria, there was a double line of towering pillars. They were carved like boles of mighty trees, whose boughs upheld the roof with a branching tracery of stone. Their stems were smooth and black, but a red glow was darkly mirrored in their sides. Here you see the simile where the pillars are like boles of mighty trees, followed by the metaphor of their stems were smooth and black. No one would question whether or not the dwarves had built these structures with wood. Speaking of trees once again, Tolkien used the simile followed by metaphor trick in Three Years' Company at Woodhall. There the green floor ran on into the wood and formed a wide space like a hall, roofed by the boughs of trees. Their great trunks ran like pillars down each side. In the middle there was a wood fire blazing, and upon the tree pillars torches with lights of gold and silver were burning steadily. Who knew that the trees in the Shire and the stone pillars of Moria had so much in common? And over at Treebeard's home, the tree trunks looked like pillars moulded out of luminous stone. Of course, the point is that the evidence shows that the Balrog did not have wings. But also, let's not forget that after Gandalf had come flying down the steps from the chamber of Mazarbul, he said something dark as a cloud was blocking out all the light inside of the creature trying to come through the door. Again, it's just a shadow. Remember that this is just a doorway with a door. It's not a gateway. The arch through here is probably a little higher than maybe to the Chamber of Records or something. I don't know, but the Balrog can't be much greater than 10 foot high or wide when it's trying to stoop through here. Remember who these halls were built for. Additionally, Gandalf says the bridge is dangerous and narrow. A 50-foot bridge that a dwarf would cross single file across. It would be like that obviously in the films, sure, but there's no way that a Balrog of that size either would have been able to model strut down there, and certainly not with a pair of ginormous wings on its back. Well, I've tried to give both sides of the argument here today, but I'm somewhat biased because it's probably fairly obvious that I believe that the Balrog had no wings. Pro wings, to me, only works if you assume that the Balrog already has wings. It is circular logic and works only if you take similes and metaphors as factual descriptions. It also requires you to discard other similar situations in the text where the trees of the Shire switch places with the pillars of Khazad-dûm. It also requires you to believe that a Balrog could steep through doorways built for dwarves with his 100-foot plus wingspan amidst the tunnels of Moria, and the wings are like never again mentioned. That said, literature is all about imagination, and there isn't necessarily always a right and wrong answer, so we can all enjoy it however we like. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this really long-winded video, and I'm sure I probably missed something out, but thank you very much for watching, and good day.